Hey, welcome to the video that goes with the PowerPoint about making a color wheel. So this will show you how to draw the skeleton where all the colors go in, and it's going to seem kind of complicated, but I'm going to follow the written steps and the illustrations that are on the PowerPoint exactly. So I'm starting with slide 58. It says find the center of the paper. This is how light you want to draw, and you can see that you can't really see much of that on the camera. So I'm going to draw darker, but you're going to want to erase a lot of these lines. You'll ink over some of them. You're going to have color in all of these, so you want to be able to clean all those lines out at the end. So make sure that you're drawing very, very light with either a mechanical pencil or a number 2 pencil. Don't use your ebony. So I'm going to go at my pace, and remember that you can pause anytime. And the first thing I'll do, step 1, it says find the center of the paper by drawing light lines from the top left to the bottom right, and from the top right to the bottom left. So basically, if you cross over on any size paper, if it's a rectangle or a square, you can find the center. So I want to make sure I'm lined up here, top left, bottom right, and draw a line. Actually, all you need is that middle part, but that helps you stay accurate. And what I'll do is, even though it says to draw this whole line, I'll line up top left to bottom right and just make that little dot, because it says there on the next step, make a slightly darker dot where they cross, then erase the lines completely, keeping the dot, and this line is the center. By lining this up and not drawing it, but only getting only the dot, then I've got a little less to erase. And you want to go ahead and erase these right now, because they'll just confuse you otherwise. You don't want them in there as you go along. Now I'm using this compass. It's an easy compass, and if you're using a regular compass, and I don't have one here, then it will compare. So if you look at on slide 60, it'll show you the parts. And so the main things you'll need from that slide is, I'm calling this the center point, and then wherever we go, these dots right here, these little holes, and all these holes down each side, we're calling the radius point. That'd be the part on a traditional compass that's the pointy part. So this is where the center would go, and the pointy part with the pencil goes out here. And you can change the radius of your circle by using different holes. So center point, radius point, whichever one there. Alright, so picking up on slide 61, it says place the center point of the compass on the center dot of the paper and draw a circle with a 3/4 inch radius. So if you're using traditional, you can kind of measure that out. If you're using the easy compass, I'll put it right here, and remember, draw lightly. On these compasses, what I'll do is I'll pull out just slightly with my pencil, because that wheel wiggles just a little bit. So if you're always just very slightly pulling out, it'll keep it a lot accurate. Once you draw that circle, don't lift up your compass, because what you're going to do is keep the center point at the same place and draw a second circle as big as the page will allow. So what I'm going to do is press down here. Notice on little circles, I hold on the orange. When I come out and use these holes, I just switch and push down on the center point. And I'm fine here. I've got plenty of room this way. But what I'm going to need is room this direction. Okay, I adjusted my light a little bit so maybe you can see it a little bit better. So I'm going to come out here just as close to the edge as I can get. And usually I'll double check it, but by swinging it up here, and it's a little bit, because the paper's not quite even. So I'll come in just a little bit. I'll leave a little bit of room to not go off the top there. and then again pull out slightly. When you're making a big circle like this, what you have to do is remember what hole you're in, and then just kind of go under your own hand and continue around. You should get a good circle on there. So I've got small circle and the outside circle done from that same center point. Now I've got a little thing on that slide 61 that tells you that difference in a radius and a diameter. So a radius goes, okay, excuse me, the radius is from the center point out in one direction, so that's the radius. If you put two of those, called to be radii, together, you get the diameter across there. So you should talk about the radius because that's what you're setting on the compass. Okay. So other classes help. All the things you learn in school are connected. So let's see. Okay, so we're going to think of the circle as a clock, and if it helps, you can write these in, but they would, to me, they just kind of get in the way. But if you can see them on here, it might help to refer to them. So I'm going to do just those right now. And I'd have 1 and 2 in here, 4 and 5, and so on. So that way we can kind of refer to parts of this pretty easy as we talk about it. Alright, so what it says there is if you think of it as a circle, what you're going to do is take the compass and kind of do a backwards thing with it. You're going to put the center point on 12. So it may help to take your ruler, because you're also going to use 6, and line it up. If you're using the one in the kit, you can line up across here to make sure that your ruler is not wiggling and aiming not straight up. So you got a good vertical and go straight through here. And that way you know you've got 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock. So we can go ahead and mark those. Then what I'm going to do is put the center point right on 12. And I'm going to come down here and find where the center of my clock is and which hole matches that. There should be one that's right on it, so I think it'd be that one. And it says draw a light arc, so you don't want to draw these lines heavy, just a reminder. From one side of the circle to the other, mark the dots where the arc crosses the circle and erase the arc. So that's going to look something like this. So it's just swinging back and forth, and the arc is just this line. That's what it's talking about. And again, if you can do it, what you can do is mark down here, and to give yourself one less line to erase, you could just lift up without marking. Find that little spot, find that little spot, and make sure you got them marked. Those little points are important. And then we're going to erase this out. Now what I'm going to do, just to make it easier on my hands, I want to turn the clock upside down. And on 63 it says, still thinking of the big circle as a clock, put the center point of the compass on 6 and put your pencil, which is your radius point. You're going to put your pencil on the point that is the center. So we're doing the exact same thing. Let me turn it back right side up, it may be less confusing. So we just drew this one and got those points. So now what we're going to do is I'm coming down here to 6, putting my center point right there and pushing down. I am finding the center of the clock, and I'm going to go on both sides. So if it helps, you can draw this whole line. If you can find the hole, the right hole here, and just bring it out to each side, and then erase out your arc. Remember, if this gets a little confusing, just go back, pause it, play that part again. And so what you've got are you have the dots you marked here and here, They're right between 12 and 9 and 12 and 3. And the same thing down here between 3 and 6 and 9 and 6. So you've got those points. All right. Next slide says make a dot on 12 and 6. We've already done that. To draw the two necessary triangles, you just connect the dots. So on that slide I've got it says you're going to draw a triangle with your ruler from 12, and I have D and C, so let me label these here. I called this one A, B, C, and D. And so I drew from 12 to D to C to 12. So that was the first triangle. So don't line up the line, line up the actual place where they cross. And then from D to C. And again, I make this reminder in class probably a dozen times each class whenever I'm drawing. Draw your lines light so you can erase easily. If not, you're going to have problems. I'm making these dark. You'll see the problems I'm going to have, but you can't see it if I don't. Then triangle 2 is going to go from 6 to A to B and back to 6. So that's the reason we did all that stuff with the compass, is we were figuring out these points. You could also do this by using a protractor and measuring angles, but I think this is a little easier and a little more artistic to use the compass to kind of do some angle figuring. So you have something that looks like this, and then you're ready to start to draw the circles. So we're pretty close actually. Number 7 says to draw the 12 circles for the color wheel. You're going to start each one with the radius point of your compass on the outer circle. So I'll show you what that is. The radius point will start here. So when you draw these circles, you don't want them to happen out here, and you don't want the center of the compass to go here. That's kind of tempting to do. You want all your circles to be inside here. Remember this finish one we're looking at. All your circles are inside that outer circle. So this is what slide 65 is talking about. So you're going to start with the radius point of your compass out here. All that means is, instead of doing what you think you should here and kind of centering it, I'll start on 12 and I'll show you, because if you did that, your circle is going to go off the page. I want to make this one same size as the middle. So if you're using a traditional compass, that was 3/4 of an inch. If you're using this compass, it's just the biggest hole on the wheel. So what that looks like on slide 65, and when you're actually doing it, I put my pencil in that biggest hole and bring it up to 12. Aim my compass right down through that middle, so I can use that circle to kind of center it, hold it down, draw my circle. Okay. And since I'm going to do different sizes, it talks about there too, it says make circles 12, 4, and 8 largest. So I'm going to go ahead and do those. That'd be 12, 4, and 8. 4 and 8 are also D and C. So the same thing, put my hole in here, or my pencil in that hole, aim this towards the center, hold it down and draw. And the same thing over here. So you can see what we're doing is we're just putting circles. Whoops, I just about messed up. I just about didn't follow my own directions. So I'm going to put my radius point out here, aim my compass, draw my circle. You're going to do the same thing at the corners of this. You're just going to come in a little bit. So instead of using the biggest hole right here, just come in a hole, one hole. So I went from here to here. And then it's the same thing. Line it up here, draw there. And draw there. What that does, when we get to the colors, it's going to help us to distinguish the different size of the circles. Will look different for the different groupings on the color wheel. Alright, so it says center a small circle between each of the 6 triangle circles. letting them also touch the outer circle. So what that means when you do it is we could draw a dot in here. There are ways to do that, but at this point we're close enough we can probably just kind of line the compass up in between those, because it's if you look at the space here, it's about the same. And I'm going through here, I'm lined up in the middle. So I think we can probably do that. And we used this one already. We used this hole for here, so we're just going to come in one hole, then do the same thing, and there's 6 of these. So I'm centered, I'm just kind of doing it by sight. Going to come down here, 3rd hole in, draw that one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 3rd hole in. And it will pay off later when you do this. The reason we're taking so much time to draw this, one thing, it teaches you how to use some of the equipment that we're using, and that way later on in projects you have some of those skills that can come in handy. But also the color wheel needs to be accurate. Okay, so I've got those 6. Because like what's straight across from here, if you drew it, just kind of hand drew it, and that ended up straight across, then the whole color wheel is useless. It has to be lined up. Alright, so now we've got these. Then it says lightly pencil in an arrow pointing from 12, 4, and 8. Now later we'll make these fancy. This is just kind of remember. So I'll put an arrow from 12 pointing to the center, from 4, and from 8. Just like that. Okay, then it says to erase all the lines inside each circle. So you can see here's where I'm having problems, because I drew that big old 12 and all my lines are dark. For you, that'll be simple. And you want to just make sure that each of these circles is completely free of any lines, because that's where the color will go, and you don't want to have to try to be erasing later, and you don't want them showing through your color. This particular drawing I would not use for a color wheel because the lines were too dark. This one's good only for drawing what we just did. Okay, so you are on slide 67, and it says to return to slide 27 to begin adding colors to your color wheel. I'm going to try to get a second video on, so if you'll look, today is January 28th. If you'll look today about 12:30 or so, there should be a video showing the pencil things, how to use the pencil and the techniques and all, and it'll go just like we did here. I've got it written out and illustrated on the PowerPoint. This is just kind of what it looks like in class when we're talking. Okay, so give this a shot. Go back and look at it as you need to. Get this done first. Remember to draw lightly, and then join us back on slide 27, and we'll pick up from there.